On today's portfolio review, we'll talk about getting buried by Ja'Marr Chase in DFS yesterday. We did, however, get the Breece Hall breakout party. We'll recap some sexy Best Ball Mania teams we got going and celebrate some more Deposit Kingdom wins here, including our guy Chad from the Badge Bros who punched his ticket to Miami. It just happens week after week, the Deposit Kingdom crushing. It's the portfolio review. Let's go.
I suffer from a debilitating condition known as atropic chalkitis.
Peter's one of the greatest depositors I've ever seen.
Trust the process. Let's go. Let's go.
I got auto matched with Levitan. This is bullshit.
If I just go the other way, in that 66, I win all the money. All the money.
If I had 150 lineups, I'd win too.
Process over results.
Illuminati make a bitch go crazy. I don't know which one of these my baby. Bust out AP, 35 bullets in your head like KD. Bust it, bitch go bust it. And I had 10 pints with me in Russia.
Hey everyone.
Hey everyone, how is it going? Brady is excited about Breece Hall, Resurgence Day, GMs. Big Dan wants the Ducks. Okay, I like this. This is where you guys help me produce this show, because I probably would have gone a few minutes and forgotten about the Ducks. So let's get the Ducks going. There we go. The Ducks. If for some reason you're new here to the portfolio review, we do have to feed the Ducks. It's what gets us in the right mindset to go through the previous week's action. And then the other thing we always do here is we pour a little coffee. As Dan is requesting here. Sorry, Miles says, can you pour coffee immediately? I need it. I didn't play Chase. Sure. We can get a coffee pour immediately. I actually have a few more sips in here, but let's give the people what they want, which is a hearty, strong, healthy coffee pour. Beautiful. There you go. We got the Ducks. We got the coffee. We're ready to roll up our sleeves here and get to work. Shout out to everyone in the chat. AJ saying GM to all of the Chase chasers. Yes, Ja'Marr Chase finally off the schneid in a big way. Poor Clay has no money left for coffee. No Chase, no coffee. No Chase, no money last week. It is what it is. Drop it like it's a ball from Lamar. I barely even saw any of that game yesterday. I actually didn't get to watch much football yesterday at all. I mentioned on the cram in the morning, for those of you who are YouTube members who tuned in, April got baptized yesterday. So I had one of those classic afternoons, we're at the church, then we're having some people over for a little lunch gathering after, and I'm, trying to catch peaks of red zone, trying to catch up on box scores, and didn't get to really watch until the afternoon games. But we will pick up all of the pieces here. Thank you, Gem City. It was a nice day. Let's get in, first of all, to my main GPP lineup. And I will say I've had 2 weeks out of 5 this year where I really liked my lineup. Heading into the week, the first week was the week I had a really nice week with the Jared Goff double stack that featured Laporta. Apparently, I should have just gone back to that yesterday. Everyone who had Goff and Laporta found themselves at the top of the tournaments. But I really liked the team I built yesterday, and but it didn't get it done. But I'll kind of explain what I did, why I liked it, why I thought maybe this could have worked out. I basically have been doing the same thing every week, which is I make one main lineup and then I do a couple very small pivots, 2v2s, 3v3s, and toss it in a couple different size contests. But my main lineup here that I ran in the Big Spy, for the audio listeners, it was a Daniel Jones, and you could tell where this went wrong right off the rip. It was a Daniel Jones, Wan'Dale Robinson skinny stack, and I played Devon Achane and Tyreek Hill on the opposite side of that. DeAndre Swift was my other running back. Josh Downs, who was my gold star lock of the week on yesterday's cram, was my one-off wide receiver. And then I was able to get in Travis Kelce at tight end and Garrett Wilson at my flex, and then Cardinals defense, who I had talked about on the cram, that I was just lock buttoning them. That obviously didn't work out with Ja'Marr Chase's big explosion. But yeah, this lineup, it accomplished a lot of things I wanted to do. you know, I wanted to make sure I was getting up a little bit in the mid-range and not doing multiple punts. You know, some of the lineups I was messing with, and you'll see in another iteration, ended up having 3 punt wide receivers. And when I realized that the meta for this week was going to be so many studs and duds, I wanted to at least avoid having 3. Ended up just going Josh Downs, Wan'Dale Robinson, and that allowed me to get up to both Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce and a mid-tier wide receiver that I thought was actually going to get more squeeze than he did. Garrett Wilson here at 17.4% ownership. He did come in significantly less rostered compared to Breece Hall, who was 35% in this big spy. But even looking at, I believe ETR's small field ownership had Garrett Wilson at around 12%. I thought he was going to get squeezed a little more in that mid-range, but people were obviously very excited to attack this Broncos defense. And yeah, I mean, my thought on Daniel Jones was the last piece of this lineup. Obviously a disaster, 7.16 points, but he was here at 5.4%. And my thought process here was I had all these plays I wanted to get in, and I basically had to either sacrifice Garrett Wilson and get up to a higher end quarterback, which I'll show you I did in another version of this lineup, or the first player that this lineup that I was never not going to have was Devon Achane and Tyreek Hill. And then when I started looking at, well, I don't want to, you know, if I'm playing this game, I don't want to ignore a gift horse in the mouth with the best points per dollar value on the slate in Wan'Dale Robinson. And obviously I knew it was going to be chalky. We talked about it on the cram. He was clearly everyone's favorite play. And so I'm saying, how can I use him in a smart way? And I thought that was ultimately pairing him with Daniel Jones. If he's getting there, if Wan'Dale Robinson is actually paying off this kind of ownership, he's probably scoring a touchdown. He's probably in a bigger up-tempo game. And, you know, Daniel Jones, super gross play, but you would go in the ETR projections. He was grading out as the top value on the week. And so that gave me a little bit more confidence from a pure points per dollar standpoint that if it allowed me to get in all of the plays and he was the opposite quarterback in the main game I wanted to target with Achane and Tyreek Hill, that it made a lot of sense. And, you know, JM wrote about this in his scroll this week of, you know, Daniel Jones has the potential to put up a tournament winning week. He can also fucking crater your lineup. And when you play Daniel Jones, you head into it with open eyes. And I certainly had open eyes heading into here. He gave me that snowflake, but looking at the kind of percentages here for this lineup, was certainly happy with kind of how it shook out. You know, Daniel Jones, 5.4%. Josh Downs, my gold star lock there. I knew he was going to get squeezed as the pump play wide receiver who was going to probably go overlooked. And God, 3 receptions off of the bonus. That definitely stung there for Josh Downs, getting to 97 yards. And he probably gets there if Anthony Richardson doesn't have to leave the game early. And then otherwise, you know, very happy with DeAndre Swift, sub 10%. He was closer to a big game, but still gets 17 points. Obviously feel good about eating the Achane and Tyreek Hill chalk there. Travis Kelce, little scare there leaving the game early, but a nice score. And then, yeah, just a couple things not going my way. Obviously, the Daniel Jones one, that's the biggest one. And then Garrett Wilson gets put in the back seat by Breece Hall. So then was going to lose all of those Breece Hall versus Garrett Wilson 1v1s. And then my Cardinals D play as the big leverage on the Bengals chalk. That failed in an epic way with Jamar Chase just hanging major dong with a 50 burger there. So that was my main lineup. I loved how it came together. It allowed me to get in all the plays I wanted. I think it pulled enough levers as far as leverage with Daniel Jones, with Josh Downs, DeAndre Swift, and kind of getting multiple guys in the mid-range here. So yeah, this is one of those weeks where I don't feel like total shit when I review my lineups because I really like this team. But yeah, when your main stack, skinny stack here doesn't hit, and then a couple of those other leverage plays you make with, then you're going to have a rough GPP day. You can see the team here that took it down in first place. Of course, the Joe Burrow to Jamar Chase stack. There goes nuclear for almost, what is that? Almost 80 points there, or over 80 points. Breece Hall, Gus Edwards in the winning lineup. Holy cow. 1.8%, 4.8 points, but it doesn't matter when you get Jalen Waddle, DeAndre Hopkins. Dallas Goedert was the other really big surprise there. I believe I saw a Kyle Dvorak tweet that he's the first tight end this year to clear 100 yards. Wild. And then Adam Thielen, who continues to shove it down my throat, 107 yards, 11 receptions, 30 points. And then the Saints defense absolutely smacking the Patriots yesterday. So congrats to Galena here. Let's see here. Yeah, the Downs lock was good. Hopefully some of you guys were able to ship some tournaments with him, or at least get some cashes. We also had put him in our Underdog pick'em over 3 receptions. And so that 6 receptions hit there as well. Let's look here. You know what we're going to do right away? Before I look at a couple other spinoffs of my main lineup here, we're going to go to the Deposit Kingdom Weekly League. Last week, I forgot to cover Achiever's winning lineup, but I think it all worked out for Achievers because he went on to, I believe it was on the Showdown slate. Was that Monday night Achievers where he had a 5-figure score there at the top. So apparently getting ignored by me can actually propel you to a heater. So unfortunately for Rupesh here, though, I am going to review his winning lineup. Just a really sick team here, 226 points. Jalen Hurts with DeAndre Swift and Dallas Goedert. So going with the cheaper options for the Jalen Hurts stack and kind of sidestepping the A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith price tag. You, of course, play Achane here. This was my running back combo that I rolled out as well. Love that. And then instead of playing A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, he gets in Jamar Chase, 24% in our contest. Marquise Brown, who was fairly chalky, but a very solid play at 5K. Josh Reynolds, who I thought was really smart, just with kind of all of the Khalif Raymond, David Montgomery, Sam Laporta chalk. Did seem like he was going to get squeezed a little bit there, comes in at 12.5%. And then Breece Hall in the flex. Colts defense there doesn't do much. But yeah, just getting in the Jalen Hurts to Dallas Goedert stack, and then going for the one-offs in Miami with Achane, Jamar Chase, Marquise Brown, Mini. Very nice lineup there by Rupesh, 226.62 points. 301 Luke there in second place with a very similar build. Joe Burrow, Chase, Swift, Hall, Reynolds, and Marquise Brown. So what is that, like 6 or 7 overlapping players there on the first and second place team. Third place also had Burrow, Breece Hall, Achane, Jamar Chase. There's our first Laporta sighting there. Only 15.1%. That's kind of surprising considering how high he came in some other contests, but that just must be all of our Deposit Kingdom gal brainers getting off of Laporta. I did see a lot of people taking down the Underdog contest with the Jared Goff and Laporta stack, which I thought was really sharp. And it was what I was trying to do with like the Daniel Dimes and Wan'Dale Robinson thing, where it's like you have this chalky piece, or at least in Detroit, you had multiple chalky pieces, and no one wanted to play Jared Goff. And so I think that was really sharp. If you were able to get to Jared Goff to stack with Laporta or with Reynolds, that worked out pretty well. I see Iowa Husker here in 5th. And there was the Josh Dobbs. Josh Dobbs came in at 14%. The Josh Dobbs was a bummer for our pick'em that we built on the cram yesterday. We had his higher on rushing yards because he had like 3 straight games with over 40 yards rushing. Only had 1 rush yard yesterday. Pretty rough day for him. 2 interceptions, 1 fumble. But you could see here, you could still build a pretty monster lineup with him because you probably stacked him with Marquise Brown, who got there. You were probably playing a Joe Mixon or Jamar Chase opposite of him, and then still got access to all of those points. Wan'Dale Robinson comes in 42% in our contest there. But yeah, Dallas Goedert ended up being one of the best leverage plays you could get to at kind of a weak tight end position at 4,200. Not a bad price tag there. Oh yeah, Breece Hall and Bryce Hall. I was getting confused by that for a second too. All right, let's see here. Purple Yosh scored 198 with Dusty Dobbs and Floor Bijan. So close to a huge week. Let me see your lineup here, Yosh. Is this you? Let's see. Yeah. Where's your team? Is it not in here, Yosh? I don't see your team in here. Maybe it was a different one. Real quick, I'll show you a couple of the other spin-offs of my main lineup that I rolled out here. So I did have one lineup where I said, you know what? I like this core so much. And if this entire lineup hits and it fails exclusively because of Daniel Jones, I was like, that doesn't sound too fun. So I did build a version of this that was a Mahomes lineup. And so basically the pivots I made was having to come down from Garrett Wilson to get up from Daniel Jones to Mahomes. And then I had to go down to Rashee Rice. So basically down from Garrett Wilson to Rashee Rice, then use that salary to come up to Patrick Mahomes. I rolled this out in the smaller contests. My thought was if I have 3 punt play wide receivers here, sub 4K, it's going to be harder for me to hit those, 95th percentile outcomes that I'm going to need to win the big spy, those 5,000 person contests. This one here, the smaller contest, about half the size with 2,700. So that's why I kind of specifically was being intentional with, okay, these are the lineup pivots I'm making. Which contests do these style of lineups make more sense in? So I thought with the 3 punts, it made more sense in the smaller stuff here. And this lineup, again, was solid, but just you can't keep pace if you don't have the Jamar Chase 50-point score. But Patrick Mahomes at 12%, Kelsey at 20%, Rashee Rice 17%, about what I expected based on ownership. And then I still had my Josh Downs lever. I had my Achane and Tyreek Hill, my DeAndre Swift, my Cardinals here. So this one scores 159.24 points versus the 142.26, but still not enough to cash. Looks like I was about 7 points off of the cash line, needed 169 points to cash here. But, this kind of style of play still has been working out for me as far as having a really tight core, a tight lineup, and then just making some really small pivots off of it. I have Travis Kelce in my other lineup. I know JM always preaches the correlation between Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. If one of them is giving you that tournament winning score, the other's probably coming along for the ride. So I like making that pivot here and seeing, yes, do I prefer Garrett Wilson to Rashee Rice? Obviously. But when I'm playing Patrick Mahomes, and if he's giving you a 30-plus point week, he's probably bringing another wide receiver along for the ride. So I don't mind this lineup construction here and keeping my tight core. And then my final tournament here, and these were in the really small one. This was a 757 person contest, the goal line stand. I did a Daniel Jones variation where I just swapped out Josh Downs for Jalen Hyatt and basically saying, let's do the double punt wide receiver here with the Giants. I knew Jalen Hyatt was going to be very low owned, and apparently for good reason. Snowflake here for Jalen Hyatt, 1.3% drafted, 0 total points. But again, identical lineup as the other one. But the same thought here of putting this one in a smaller contest of, yeah, it's probably unlikely that both Hyatt and Robinson hit for big scores. But if one of them has the 20-point plus week, I'm going to feel good about that in a smaller contest where I'm not having to get every single thing right. So yeah, that didn't work out there. But like I said, I don't know. I normally feel like shitty on Mondays after my lineups or whatever. I felt good with my lineups this week. Just the leverage bets I made did not get there. Garrett Wilson over Breece Hall didn't work. Cardinals defense didn't work. Wan'Dale Robinson and Daniel Jones didn't work. But otherwise, the play wasn't too bad, said Mrs. Lincoln. Let's see here. Let me check in on the chat. Chase says, Pete, whoa, we almost had the same lineup, everybody, but I had Wilson over Downs. Daniel says, aren't punts better in large fields? No, the opposite, because what's generally happening, and all punt plays are not created equally. There are different punt plays. The Wan'Dale Robinson punt, his profile and with his lower ADOT, right, he is going to get there with a lot of receptions. And the reason he was attractive is because, based on his projection, he's getting you anywhere from like 10 to 14 points. He obviously didn't get there, but that's kind of how he was projecting for his role. That is not going to cut it in the Millie Maker. Let's go to the Millie Maker here and show you the kind of score you need to win in the Millie Maker. And we can kind of show how some of these cheap punts don't work out. And where is the Millie Maker? Why am I struggling to find this? I had my teams in the Millie Maker yesterday. Seriously? Let me finish this thought while I pull this up. But in the Millie Maker, right, you're essentially having to hit the nuts on almost all of your spots. And you're going to need all of your spots to give you 20 plus points, generally speaking. And those punts generally don't have that in their range of outcomes. And that's why the studs and duds is far better in smaller field, in those kind of contests, because if you get the Jamar Chase score, you can live with 8 points from Wan'Dale Robinson. But to win the Millie Maker, you're going to need the Adam Thielen score, who also goes for 30. You're going to need the DeAndre Hopkins score, who goes for 30. You're going to need that extra ceiling there that is really hard to get from those punt plays. So that's definitely how I think about it as far as when I'm using punts and how I'm using those guys. All right, here's the Millie Maker. I just found it. First place here in the Millie Maker, Buckeye, 259.1. Let me pull this up. So Joe Burrow, Breece Hall, David Montgomery, Jordan Addison, Jamar Chase, Adam Thielen, Dallas Goedert, Devon Achane. And look at these salaries, right? 5,400, 6,600, 5,300, 7,900, 5,100, 4,200, 6,100. No punts, because we didn't have any of the sub 4K wide receivers put up tournament winning scores. And it was living in the mid range that was able to give them access. Adam Thielen's, 30 points at 5,100. Jordan Addison's 18 points at 5,300. So yeah, I would definitely reorient how you're thinking about punt plays as far as which kind of contests you are playing. And every slate is different, but if you were to make a hard and fast rule, it would be to do studs and duds in much smaller field contests and go way more balanced across the board here. It is crazy looking at this salary. Other than Jamar Chase, the band of salary, and again, throwing out defense, 4,200 to 6,200, all of that living in the mid-range on that lineup. Yeah, I did notice this too when I was looking at this. Mike says Achane in the flex over Breece. That's how it works, right? You're gonna win the Millie. You don't have to have the late swap optionality. For the audio listeners, Breece Hall was in the running back slot. He was, of course, playing late, and Devon Achane playing early was in the flex spot. But when you're perfect, it doesn't matter. But yes, I agree, Big Dan. He should be required to send the money back. Jay Chang says, Pete, we suck at DFS, but we keep depositing. Why? I mean, this is the deposit kingdom. That's I think we're legally obligated to. Yeah, I mean, I guess we haven't had like too big of macro thoughts, but I mean, we can do a little leveling. We can do a little resetting here. I mean, if you're playing GPPs the right way, you're going to have a lot of losing weeks. I do think the Daniel Jones thing is instructive in the same way JM said it, right? He has tournament winning potential and roster cratering potential. Like, both of those are well within his range of outcomes. We've seen Daniel Jones put up 30 plus point weeks, and we've seen him have complete meltdowns and put 5 points. I remember that clearly because that was yesterday. And so if you're not taking on that risk and that volatility, you're not giving yourself true pathways to first place. You're probably building cash game lineups. So if it feels like you suck, if it's because of results, I think you need to reframe how you're thinking about it. Now, there are ways to evaluate your play. I've had mornings on here where I didn't like my lineups. I didn't like how things come together. I felt good about my process this week. I'm doing all the things, the tight core. I'm reviewing my lineups in the Sims. I'm testing 2v2s. I'm making sure that my lineups are going in the correct contest for the type of texture of those lineups. So there are ways to evaluate your play, but if you're simply evaluating it on results, hey, I haven't won, well, what contests are you playing? One thing I've gotten better about this year, I used to always only play the big spy, the big red zone, 5,000 plus entrants. And I'd be like, well, why can't I ever get a cash? Why can't I? It's like, well, I was playing a very volatile style, probably too volatile last year, taking on too much risk, unnecessary risk. And then also playing in a massively top heavy, large contest. This year, I've been playing in some of the less than 700, less than 500, and you're actually able to cash, min cash, get some top 10s without hitting the nuts. And we've talked about this in the Discord. If you guys are YouTube members and you unlock the Hand Builder and Opto Bros channel, there's a psychological barrier for registering for contests that don't have a large prize pool. Like even really sharp guys in the Discord who understand bankroll management, who understand how prize structures work, they still struggle with not clicking the contest that has $100,000 up top. And so that's why I've been trying to force myself. You see this 50K goal line here. This was a $75 tournament, only 757 entries. You're like, oh, only $5,000 at the top, but it's a smooth payout structure. And it's a place where if you don't have to be perfect to actually get a cash. And then the other thing I like about it is then I can make some of the pivots off my core lineup that I've basically engineered to be able to win a 5,000 person contest, and then make the necessary pivots, kind of take out some of the risk and make that lineup make more sense for a smaller contest. So I know these are the tried and true principles that you guys have likely heard all over the place, but it's probably worth reiterating. Contest selection matters. Being able to review your play from a process standpoint matters. That's why I'm not upset with my stuff this week. It's like I avoided Jamar Chase and tried to leverage that bet specifically by playing other high-priced wide receivers, by playing the Cardinals defense. If Jamar Chase fails, how can I benefit? He didn't fail, so I didn't benefit, but my logic and my lineups at least track in a way that if that scenario breaks my way, my lineups have the chance to benefit. So I think those are the things you should really be asking yourself when you're reviewing your DFS play. Let's see here. So I want to check in on some of the underdog contests, and then we can look at Best Ball Mania here. Let me head over to Underdog. I fired, ended up being 9 bullets at the Dawg Bowl Qualifier as I try to chase all of you Deposit Kingdom bankers to Miami. I did not have any success. Pretty bad showing for me in the Dawg Bowl. Highest scoring team, 77 points. Shout out though to our guy Lee. You guys know him as Chad. He's the one that puts together all of the great combinatorial spreadsheets for Battle Royale stuff each week. So it's always fun to see one of the true grinders in here rewarded. Lee will be headed to Miami with a pretty sick lineup here. Had the Joe Burrow to Jamar Chase stack, had Breece Hall and Isaiah Pacheco at running back, DeAndre Hopkins at wide receiver, and Tyler Conklin at tight end. Love the one-off late tight end play there. And again, a really smart way to attack this Denver defense. And you see here, no bringbacks, just the skinny stack, and then 2 Jets against the Broncos there. Really like that idea. And you're trying to think, hey, Garrett Wilson's getting drafted in all of these. If Garrett Wilson fails, is there a tight end super late here that can benefit from that? Tyler Conklin certainly checks that box. And then DeAndre Hopkins was just a great one-off play too. In a really nice spot against a bad Colts secondary, and then no Treylon Burks. Chigakonkwo has kind of failed to establish himself as a consistent target earner. So just a super nice lineup there by Chad. We now have week 1 copper prices, week 2 Nez, week 3 GME Holder, week 4 Chris G, and now week 5 Chad. 5 for 5 Deposit Kingdom and Badge Bros headed to Miami. Congratulations to Chad. Chad says, thanks, looking forward to Miami. Conklin did just enough to get me there. Tyler Conklin is ending up being a major plot point this year. It all started when Paul infamously sniped me on that stream. I think that was a big board draft. That was a long time ago when I got tilted on getting sniped on Tyler Conklin. Thank you, Tyler, here for reminding me the amount of likes make me sad. Monday is for good vibes. Yes, please like the stream here if you guys are hanging out in the chat. Like I mentioned before, if you guys aren't YouTube members, I genuinely think it's a very good value proposition here. You become a hand builder in OptoBro, like Tyler, like all the other guys with badges here. You get access to the hand builders in OptoBro's Discord channel in the Deposit Kingdom. You sync your YouTube account. It unlocks that. Lots of good strategy talk in there, lots of fun sweating the games. And then we also cram for the showdown contest. I post the optos from the solver. We look at what the sims are spitting out from Run the Sims and help the hand builders with their showdown lineups. And then you get 2 premium shows a week. I do DFS After Dark on Saturday nights, which is me catching up with a friend around the industry. This past week, it was TJ Hernandez. And then we end up building a team for that week's DraftKings slate. Always a good time. And then Sunday morning, you get the cram. So 10:45 a.m. Eastern every Sunday. We go through the overnight news, the latest ownership projections. We go position by position, talk about the top leverage play. And that's where you now get my gold star lock of the week. I think I am 4 for 5 on that now with the gold star locks there. That was Josh Downs. We build a pick 'em. We sweat the inactives as they come in and get you prepared for the slate. So you can get access to all of that by becoming a Hand Builder and OptoBro YouTube member. And let's go back now to Underdog here and check out some of the other stuff yesterday. Battle Royale. I had a few teams bubbling up to the top, but nowhere close to taking anything down here. My top team in Battle Royale, I had a Patrick Mahomes to Rashee Rice stack, Breece Hall, Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, and Sam Laporta. Fine lineup there. Of course, Jamar Chase was a had-to-have-it guy, but not enough to hit the nuts. Shout out to GlueEater. I want to say, did I see GlueEater pop up in the Badge Bros Discord? He revealed himself as a lurker in there. But he had Jalen Hurts, Breece Hall, Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase, Puka Nacua, and Dallas Goedert. So this team like snuck in an extra pick, right? Because this must have been one where Jalen Hurts really fell, because in a lot of other drafts, you would have had to start your first 3 picks with Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase, Puka Nacua, and then Jalen Hurts isn't kicking around. I guess maybe this was late and you go Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase, Jalen Hurts, and then Puka falls in a big way, which I do think makes sense. Puka should have fallen once Cooper Kupp was named active, but in a lot of my drafts, the anchoring effect to his initial ADP kept him being drafted, in the top, 20 picks a lot of the time. So I'm curious here for GlueEater if it was Jalen Hurts who majorly fell or if it was Puka, but then nonetheless getting Breece, I'm guessing second to last pick, and Dallas Goedert as the last pick ended up being the nuts there. A real boon for Jalen Hurts drafters too. Like, you miss out on AJ Brown or Devonta Smith, and then you're like, yeah, I want to have one correlated piece. Might as well correlate it with the tight end position. It's really weak. Dallas Goedert isn't getting drafted in all of these contests. I think a really nice way to approach that. Nothing really off the board in this lineup. No dupes here either. Won by a clean 5 points. Just some value there with either Hurts or Puka, maybe both, to pull off this lineup. But otherwise, very solid there. Also, got to give a shout out, John Warner. I know when we were doing Off and On the Clock on Friday, that's a weekly show we do over on the Underdog Daily channel, go through Battle Royale strategy, talk it through. John was very steadfast on being overweight on Jamar Chase. I know the rest of us were a little spooked. I kind of needed a wait and see week from Joe Burrow there, which is obviously looking like a bad take because Jamar Chase went absolutely nuclear in that spot. So shout out to John for being on Jamar Chase so heavy there. I see our guy Bonesaw here. Shout out to Bonesaw, 13th place. Also had the Burrow to Chase stack, Devon Achane, Breece Hall, Cooper Kupp, Dallas Goedert. It does feel like the pieces you had to have for Battle Royale were obviously Jamar Chase, and then Breece Hall was such a smash for a running back who was going in the 3rd and 4th round of these, and then Dallas Goedert as the late round tight end, who is essentially free in all of these drafts, going for 21 points there. Just a massive score to get from your last pick. So shout out to Bonesaw there as well. Copper Price is schooling me here. Let's see. You can click on the players. Jalen Hurts, pick 16. Thank you. Puka was 21. So yeah, okay, yeah. So Tyreek Hill 4, that makes sense. Jamar Chase 9. So Jamar Chase slides, right? Because his ADP was like 6 or 7. So you get the Jamar Chase slide at 9. Then you get the Hurts slide at 16 because his ADP was what, like 10 or 11? Yeah, ADP of 10 there. So just some massive fallers there. Hurts, 6 picks past ADP. Puka, 6 picks past ADP. Breece Hall, 8 picks past ADP. So GlueEater just value hounded this entire lineup there. And I do think it's a really good reminder. And this was a conversation we had a lot during Best Ball Mania season, is like, how much should you be going out of your way to reach for unique combos? And the other part of that conversation is always the combos you get from fallers are even more potent, right? Because you're getting the combinatorial uniqueness, but you're also getting better players that the market has established should be going higher, that you're getting later, as opposed to the opposite, which is you saying, I'm going to IKB, this guy should be a 2-3 turn pick, even though his ADP is in the 4th round, and I'm going to take him here to get unique. So there's more added risk when you're really reaching, and this is more applicable to Best Ball Mania. I think in Battle Royale, when only 36 guys are getting drafted, dancing around the draft board isn't near as bad. But this is more just to point out the fact that you don't have to scroll the F down if the room is scrolling the F down for you, right? In this room, they're gifting you all of these ADP fallers, and all of a sudden you're able to build a juggernaut team that isn't matched anywhere else because those combos are so hard to replicate. So that's one thing I've been thinking through when I do those drafts. I am firmly on team scroll the F down, but if you are getting these nut combos here, like the way GlueEater rounded it out, you didn't need to scroll down at tight end and go off the board. You needed a stacking partner for Hurts. You had already hit the nuts on some ADP values, then just put a tidy little bow on it in a logical sense, correlate Hurts with Goddard. But yeah, very nice lineup there by GlueEater. All right, let's see here. Wanted to check in on Best Ball Mania. I did have a team that was kicking around in the top 50 there for a second. It's a Justin Fields, DJ Moore team, so it was sitting pretty there after Thursday night. It looks like it has fallen to 144th place. I got 2 teams now in the top 10,000, one in 144th, another in 5,148. I posted this one on Twitter. This is the one that I'm pretty excited about. You know, you should never fall in love with a lineup in week 5. But man, this is definitely my favorite team to check in on right now. For the audio listeners, it's very heavy on Chicago and Miami. It's Justin Fields and Tua at quarterback. Pacheco, Devon Achane, Khalil Herbert, Roshan Johnson, Jeff Wilson Jr., Kenneth Gainwell, and Jerome Ford at running back. The Khalil Herbert high ankle sprain is definitely a big bummer. He was starting to come on. Hopefully Roshan, who I know is dealing with a hamstring too. Hopefully he can get back soon and take advantage of a little bit of a weaker backfield while Herbert's out. But man, Pacheco, Achane, Gainwell, Ford, pretty fun 0 RB room. And then hopefully we can even get a little from Jeff Wilson down the stretch if needed, as long as it's not at the expense of Achane. And then the wide receivers, fun here too. Tyreek Hill, Devonta Smith, DJ Moore, George Pickens, who has a big game. Quentin Johnston, hopefully his role expands after the bye. Rondale Moore, who continues to kind of take advantage of some of his gadget touches, those carries. And then Mac Hollins there as my week 17 bring back opposite Chicago. And then a very fun tight end room, Mark Andrews and Cole Kmet. The bye week bros are an absolute shambles with Mark Andrews and Cole Kmet having the same bye week. But guys, when you're up 100 or up almost 200 on 3rd place for advancing, it's okay to have 2 players who have the same bye week. So yeah, I love this team. The 2-7-7-2s were always kind of one of my favorite builds there. You get 2 quarterbacks with elite ceilings, 2 tight ends who have showcased a ceiling, and then just a pretty clean running back and wide receiver room. Not a lot of zeros there right now. Let's get Khalil Herbert back here soon. And yes, the double handcuff strat as well. It may be a way to get unique if the field is avoiding it, Phil. Shout out to producer Phil, by the way, helping us behind the scenes here, produce the Pourtfolio review. Let me pour a little more coffee and then I'll check out a couple more teams here. Another strong coffee pour. Yes, this is the question we all want to know, right? Where's Walrusballs? Let's go check here and see. if Mr. Walrus himself is still holding on. Walrusballs is now in 21st. 21st, the greatest sweat in all of the land. If you guys didn't see last week, we were talking about the Walrusballs dynamic. My guy Lou cut up a clip for it, and it was funny too because Rudman retweeted and said this is something they legitimately worry about. Shout out to Walrusballs though. Even aside from the 21st, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams in the top 10K here for Walrusballs. Well done, sir. Show us the worst team. Oh man, I hate that they in the app you can't see the scores right next to the teams. It just shows 0 in the app. It shows it. I could definitely find some bad ones, I'm sure. This one has an actual trash can emoji next to it. This was the team that I drafted with Pat that we just knew was awful. 488 points. Lamar Jackson, Dak, Josh Jacobs, Miles Sanders, Jalen Warren, Singletary, Jerome Ford, Zeke. This isn't even that bad. CeeDee Lamb, Devontae Adams, Treylon Burks, Tyler Lockett, Michael Thomas, Odell, Hunter Renfrow, Chig, Taysom Hill, Jake. Actually, it is pretty bad. But I guess it's not bad in that it has mostly healthy players, not a ton of dead roster spots here. Next week, I will make sure to actually find my worst team. My other team that I have in the top 10,000, this one kind of surged last night thanks to Brock Purdy and Jordan Mason got in there for me last night on that late touchdown run. This is my other team. It has 710 points. It's a Kirk Cousins, Brock Purdy team. Running backs, Kenneth Walker, Miles Sanders, David Montgomery, Rashad Penny, Wolf, Zamir White, and Jordan Mason. Not as sexy of a running back room, but I guess Walker and Montgomery holding it down there. Wide receivers, A.J. Brown, Devontae Adams, Deebo Samuel, DJ Moore, Juju Smith-Poopster, Rondell Moore, and Khalil Shakur. Yeah, again, not as sexy, but I guess those top 4 there, AJB, Adams, Deebo, and DJ Moore is pretty fun. And then nice tight ends there with Hawkinson, Laporta, and for some reason I felt the need to tack on Michael Mayer there. Not sure why I did that. The other funny thing I was going to say about that team, the good team I have that's in the top 150 or whatever, is that was from the show with Ed Garvey. And so you can see here, it was back-to-back drafts on Best Ball Breakfast, Best Ball Mania number 23 and number 24. And the team with the Ed Garvey draft is actually in first place too. So I was feeling it on that Monday morning because the Ed Garvey one, and I'll give everyone the update they want. Ed Garvey currently in 7th place here with his team. And this team, though, I had a Josh Allen, Sam Howell, Ramondre, Kenneth Walker, Damian Harris, Eli Mitchell, Raheem Mostert. Wide receivers, Diggs, Allen, Burks, Dotson, Cortland Sutton, Marvin Mims. Geez, why do all of my teams have Khalil Shakur on them? All of my good teams have Khalil Shakur. How did that happen? Mecole Hardman, Tank Dell, nice late round pick there. And then David Njoku and Dalton Kincaid at tight end. So this team just basically being carried by a Bills super stack and Keenan Allen, essentially. Man, Ramondre, what a bust Ramondre's been too. And I don't even know how much of it is his fault. That Patriots team is just actually deplorable over there. So those are the Best Ball Mania sweats right now. Overall, it was a good day for my portfolio, having guys like George Kittle and Breece Hall pop up for big games was nice. I know some of my smaller field contests have been doing well here. I did a Bulldog. This was a Bulldog draft I did with Michael Dubner. I work with Michael on all of the best ball videos I do over on the Deposit Kingdom channel. We drafted one of these, a slow draft, right at the end of drafting season. And this team now is in first place. It's a Herbert Kenny Pickett team. Thank you to Pickett for giving us a few points this week when we had Herbert on bye. And then it's an ETN, DeAndre Swift, Zach Charbonnet, Rashad Penny, Tyler Algier, Sean Tucker room. Wide receivers, pretty damn fun. Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams, Keenan Allen, George Pickens, Marvin Mims, Jalen Hyatt, Wan'Dale Robinson, and then 3 tight ends, Kyle Pitts, Hunter Henry, Trey McBride. Legitimately a sigh of relief to see Kyle Pitts have a usable score yesterday. What did he have? Like 6 for 70 or whatever. But yeah, this is a nice team. And anytime you can see Daily Rojo here in second, just tell him to suck it right there, Daily Rojo. But yeah, it was a good week overall for the portfolio, and have a bunch of these small field teams that are doing decent as well. This was a Rottweiler draft I did that's has 705 points too. So this one for a Rottweiler doing pretty well. Tua, Tanny, Ritter, Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker, Javonte Williams, Rashad Penny, Devon Achane, and Tajay Spears. This is a fun running back room. Hall, Walker, come on, Javonte, but Achane and Spears, about as good as you can get there for taking your first running back in the 4th. Tyreek Hill, Devonta Smith, Zay Flowers, Traylon Burks, Romeo Dobbs, Wan'Dale Robinson, Matt Collins, and then, man, the nuts at tight end, Mark Andrews and Sam Laporta. So this will be one that I follow closely. It's hard enough to have a 700-point team with 150 bullets, but to have one of these in the Rottweiler here feels pretty good. Pete, check your BBM number 114 room. Okay, I will indulge this. Let's go look. 114 would have been... This would have been... All right, so we got Emo Cowboy and Epic Daddy. What am I checking here? Am I checking this team, Tyler, that's advancing with 650? Tony Pollard, AJ Dillon, Jalen Warren, Tyler Algier. I mean, this team seems fine, Tyler, but what am I missing here? What's the special thing about this team here? Epic Daddy here, Christian McCaffrey, Madison, Antonio Gibson, Damian Harris, Raheem Mostert. Oh yeah, you want to cry about Pollard? Man, I saw it. Did you guys see it? Was it the Dvorak tweet or someone? No, I think it was Noah from Underdog tweeted out something that devastated me about Tony Pollard. Oh man. Here's the tweet from Noah, works at social over at Underdog. Tony Pollard is doing his best Lamar Miller impression. Efficient part-time running back, becomes starter and looks pretty bad. 6 broken tackles on 77 carries, not the elite passing game usage we hope for, and 4.1 yards per touch, down from the 5.74 career average. And then Noah lists off some running backs he would take over him rest of season. I think I agree with most of these. CMC, Bijan, Eckler. I'm sorry, I can't do Jacobs over Pollard. Yeah, you could maybe talk me into Walker. Definitely Achane, definitely Swift. I don't think you can do it for me on JT. Definitely ETN. No, give me Pollard over Kamara. Demon's close, but yeah, I do think you have to slide him down. But on the flip side, like Levitan had a tweet about their schedule I saw earlier. He said he's not panicking on the Cowboys players here. Upcoming schedule: Chargers 28th in yards per play allowed, Rams 16th, Eagles 11th, Giants 31st, Panthers 22nd, Commanders 29th. They have, I think the truth is, like always, is probably somewhere in the middle. He probably has lost a bit of that explosiveness with the additional workload, the efficiency cratering a bit, but the schedule has been brutal. So let's reevaluate on Pollard in a few weeks. I would, there's no way I could take a guy like Kamara over Pollard rest of the season. I would not do that. But I do think it's fair that he should be sliding a bit more, right? I mean, he was a mid-second round pick. He's probably more of a mid-third round pick if you're drafting in Resurrection these days, but better days are ahead for the Cowboys. Tough schedule so far. I would hope that all of you guys have at least one advancing team from my stream drafts. I mean, you assholes were just bum hunting all of my drafts. If you drafted in a bunch of my rooms, I would hope you have a couple teams advancing. It is so funny when I tab through my teams and I just, every single username I see, I know. It's like being at a high school reunion. Every single week I scroll through my teams. Let's see. Anything else here to check in on? We could look on this team. Let's see here. 619. I don't have the dates on mine. You got to tell me which draft number it was. I don't even know what that is. They don't put the dates. I have it all labeled 1 through 150. Oh, I do want to show this team that I drafted with Reebs on the closing marathon stream. It's my one Zach Moss share. It's a pretty hot team. I think I brought this one up on stream a couple times. It was the team where we went for the Eagles premium stack with AJ Brown and Devonta Smith, missed out on Hurts. Then we went for the DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett premium stack, missed out on Geno. But this team really came together. It's a Jared Goff and Kenny Pickett. And then we have both of them stacked with their tight ends, Pat Freiermuth and Sam Laporta. The running backs, Breece Hall, David Montgomery, Khalil Herbert, Jalen Warren, Zach Moss, Gus Edwards, and Jerome Ford. That Breece Hall, David Montgomery combo, pretty hot with Zach Moss still scorching there. AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, George Pickens, DPJ and Alec Pierce, a couple of cardio kings. But yeah, fun team there. When you get that low-owned guy, does anyone, I know Hayden posted it, I would have to dig it up. What did Zach Moss's draft percentage end up being in Best Ball Mania? It had to be extremely low. But this was one of my favorite things about drafting with a bunch of people. It's like I drafted with Tom Everett Scott there, and got my Puka share, drafted with Reebs. I remember when he floated that on the stream. He said Zach Moss, and I was like, that's so gross. And then I immediately came around on it as Reebs made a very strong, convincing case. And it seems like it might be a while until Jonathan Taylor is ramped up to full speed. Because initially when I read that language about him getting ramped up, I was like, this feels pretty similar to the language that the Jets had talked about with Breece Hall of like ramping him up over the span of a month. But I mean, the workload for Breece Hall in week 1 was far better than it was for Jonathan Taylor yesterday. Let me pull this up. Looking at the Fantasy Life utilization report, we'll look at just week 4 here. Week 5. So in week 5 here, Jonathan Taylor, 10 snaps, Zach Moss, 49, 2 snaps for Trace Sermon still. Jonathan Taylor ran 4 routes and had 1 target here. But yeah, 6 rush attempts. I guess how many rush attempts did Breece Hall have week 1? We could check here. I'm just curious because it did seem like he might have that kind of 3 to 4 week ramp up. Yeah, week 1, Breece Hall had 22. Oh no, this is week 5. Come on. Week 1, Breece Hall had 10 rush attempts. And week 5, Jonathan Taylor had 5. So yeah, I think he's going to be on a similar trajectory. But the difference, right? The difference with this situation is Dalvin Cook looks incredibly washed, whereas Zach Moss looks completely reinvigorated. I mean, this is not the dust ball who used to be a plotter on the Buffalo Bills, which is insane to say because they had the offensive line, they had the offense for a running back to take advantage of that environment. And holy cow, he looks awesome behind this Colts offensive line. So yeah, it's going to be a really interesting situation. I do think if you're able to somehow drag a Jonathan Taylor team to the Best Ball Mania finals, like we talked about their playoff schedule. I wrote about it in the Fantasy Life newsletter today, looking at their schedule. Let me pull it up again. Or maybe that was yesterday. I wrote about it, but yeah, they have 3 dome games. I think they play the Raiders, they play the Steelers. So yeah, things could be turning around for him, but the entire Colts situation, you're just going to be trying to drag these teams to the playoffs, right? Because Jonathan Taylor is going to be a low advance rate guy. And now it seems like with Anthony Richardson, who's going to be out, at least a month is what it sounds like. And again, Anthony Richardson completely smashing his ADP. If you can drag some of those Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor teams to the playoffs, you're going to be very, very happy. But the question is, can you survive this stretch of JT ramping up and no Anthony Richardson? It could be very hard. Yeah, Richardson has been so fun to watch. He's definitely way ahead of where I thought he was going to be early on, and Shane Steichen has done a great job. But man, he's doing the thing that a ton of these rushing quarterbacks do when they're early in their career. I remember Lamar doing it too, where they invite contact far too much. They like lowering the shoulder. They like, taking those hits. And it takes time for them to realize, you know what? I'll just slide here. I will just slide and live to see another day. But yeah, a huge bummer that we're not going to have Anthony Richardson for a few weeks now because he is looking incredible. I think Minshew is, Bonesaw says Minshew's going to keep them afloat. He's completely fine, but he's just not near as dynamic. And I think even looking at like the Josh Downs stuff, right? Like Josh Downs most of his production came with Anthony Richardson even too. I'll have to look into those splits. I think it's fine for the passing game, but the overall ceiling for the offense is definitely diminished. And it sucks for Anthony Richardson teams because it's going to be really hard if you have Anthony Richardson in 2 QB builds, which you probably should have him in 2 QB builds where you were taking him. It might be hard to survive those zeros for 4 to 5 weeks. Yep. DK, he's doing the early Josh Allen, Cam, Lamar thing. So yeah, it's a bummer when your number one skill set is being a physical rusher, the most athletic quarterback we've ever seen, just a dynamic talent, to say like, hey, you got to pull back some of the thing you're the best at. I imagine that's hard to do just kind of like psychologically since it's so ingrained. And there's a difference, right? When you're that big and you're going against college kids who are like 20 years old versus going against NFL linebackers and true grown-ass men. But yeah, hopefully Anthony Richardson can get back soon. Appreciate you guys hanging out in the chat. Like I said, if you guys aren't YouTube members, become YouTube members, unlock that channel in the Discord. I will be posting the Deposit Kingdom tournament for week 6. Generally post that on Tuesday. That's in the announcements section. Last week we had 425 entries. We'll maybe try to get that up to 450. This week I'm headed over to do SiriusXM right now from 11 to 1. We'll be back with the club tomorrow. I think we might do a little NBA Underdog stuff. Maybe do a double dribble draft. I know some of you have been asking for some NBA Underdog content, so we'll do that tomorrow. Wednesday, all the usual stuff, Swolecast. Thursday, lulls. Thursday night football, we got our Shipcast party hangout. We got Broncos Chiefs. We need to book our guest for that, but Broncos Chiefs, maybe the Chiefs can hang 50 points and we can have a good time. Fridays, as usual, block party show with JM, off and on the clock with my Badge Bros guys, all of that good stuff. Appreciate you guys hanging out. Good luck with Monday Night Football. I'll be in the Discord later talking shop about this slate. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Shout out to Phil. Shout out to all you in the chat, the super chatters, the people hitting the like button. Enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy Monday Night Football. We'll see you next time.